What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in to another video. Back at her again, folks. Episode 49 of the CFF podcast coming at you guys today. Excited to be back in the fold once again. Nice and quick upload, as we mentioned, as we promised. Going to try to stick to our, two uploads every month, kind of every other week type of thing. Obviously, we uploaded episode 48 to start off the new year and start off 2026. So if you guys haven't already, go back and check that one out. We were able to connect with AJ Allen, current free agent linebacker in the CFL, and of course, coming off a Grey Cup championship. And today, super excited to be sitting down with one Adrian Greene, Calgary Stampeders defensive back for episode 49. But of course, before we get into it, folks, if you guys are enjoying all of our content here on the channel, all that good stuff, please be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below, and of course, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys get notified every time we go live or upload a video just like this one right here. And then, of course, you guys can follow us on our social media platforms as well. You guys can find us over on Twitter at @_CF Fanatics over on Twitter. And then we are over on Instagram as well at Canadian Football Fanatics. So a follow, like, comment, subscribe would be greatly appreciated. All that good stuff as we move towards episode 50 and a kind of a big celebration. I feel like a nice big round milestone number to celebrate. Of course, it's been over two different platforms. We obviously originated as the Coast to Coast Gridiron podcast and then transitioned into the Canadian Football Fanatics going on 2 years ago into February, which is super cool to think about as well. So, back at it, as I said, going to stick to our every other week upload. And this one might even come at you guys a little bit quicker, actually, depending on when we want to upload this one. Probably thinking about maybe the end of the week, actually. As of the time of this recording, it's actually the 12th. It's Monday, January the 12th. And probably maybe look forward to it. I would say, if not a week from now, but maybe even we'll do an early upload and upload it on a Friday or something like that, going into the weekend, and maybe people would enjoy that. So we'll see how things are going, but expect it in the next few. I guess I don't even have to say expect it in the next few days, as by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll just be uploaded to you guys. But hope everybody is enjoying kind of coming back down after the holidays. I know I'm kind of still getting used to getting back into work and getting back into the groove of things. And I feel like it kind of, for me, anyways, me personally, my birthday's in the first week of January, so I tend to kind of take an extra little bit of a longer holidays, if you will, and kind of have to shake out the cobwebs. I know definitely this morning, waking up Monday morning to go back to work, I was like, man, this is dreading, especially in the winter up here, and it's I shouldn't complain compared to the rest of Canada living in BC, but it's still wet and cold for out west, you could say. So definitely having to shake the cobwebs off and trying to get back into the groove. But when you have a podcast to record and whatnot, that definitely I feel like makes the day easier. You're excited about it at work. You're thinking about it. So definitely helped. I was talking about actually on the Lions Den podcast 2 weeks ago to start actually just before the new year. I had to go back in for a few days there in between Christmas and New Year's and talked about kind of going live that night really helped me get through work and kind of the holiday blues, the Monday blues, I think I called them back then. So as I mentioned, the recording tonight was super excited for it, well as at work and planning for it and whatnot, and thinking about our guest, as I mentioned, Adrian Greene, going to be joining us here in a few moments. But we do have a few reminders, updates in today's intro that we do want to fill you guys in on. As you guys can actually see there down below, probably wondering, hey, Cole, what's that Royal Retros logo there in the bottom of the screen? We have officially partnered or collaborated with Royal Retros. And I have to start first and foremost with a huge shout out and thank you to one Shane Ryan of 13th Man Football, who set this collaboration up, and it's going to be pretty cool for us. I feel like a pretty cool opportunity to be on their platform where we have struck a, I don't know if I really want to call it a deal. As I said, I feel like maybe sticking with, we've struck a partnership or collaboration with the Royal Retros company and brand, and that not only CFF merch, but 13th Man football, as well as Trench Talk merch, will be available on Royal Retro's website in the coming weeks. I would think probably get ready for it probably around maybe the start of February. I would think maybe even to the middle of February, where you guys will be able to go on royalretros.com Royal Retros is obviously a partner of the CFLPA, and they also are a partner of, I think that is also the CFLPA as well, but the CFL Retros jersey, where they have all of the the American expansion franchise jerseys. They have some other throwback jerseys as well as the CFLPA merchandise you guys can get over there as well. So head over to Royal Retros. Super grateful to be working with a company like them, and you guys will be able to see and kind of go to their website, just as you can kind of click on the CFL PA tab, the CFL tab, the other different merchandise that they have. You'll be able to click on the the CFF tab. It'll bring you the all of our merchandise, and I believe it's going to be maybe a couple different shirt designs, if not just one shirt design, and then a hoodie as well as a hat, we're being told. So super cool. We're definitely excited for that. Going into the new year was definitely some good news going into 2026 that we got. I want to say last weekend, which was super cool to kind of discuss with the fellows and discuss with Shane a little bit more, and just super grateful for everything we've been able to build. And then obviously, like I said, just can't thank Shane enough for setting this up and for being kind of the voice in this negotiation. So I guess to kind of to update a little bit more, folks, as I said, it's into the middle of January here, just coming off of wild card weekend in the NFL, and boy, was it ever wild. We'll talk a little bit about NFL football. There is a little bit of, I think, some Canadian ties throughout the weekend. Actually, it was a fabulous weekend of football, if I'm being honest, folks. We had the bowl games. I'm not too big of a college football fan myself personally, but Miami was playing. I believe that was Thursday night. It could have been Friday night as well. They actually have a Canadian on their roster, which is super cool. Potential NFL draft pick. If not, I think he's the number one rated Canadian player on the CFL Scouting Bureau list. Well, at least the fall edition. The winter edition should be coming out here in the coming weeks as well. But wanted to kind of check out the bowl games. It is always exciting this time of year as well when you're sitting at home and have nothing to do, and these high intensity bowl games, especially the championship bowl games with the college football playoffs as well now. We had a game Thursday night, Friday night, playoffs kicked off Saturday in the wild card weekend in the NFL. Two fabulous games Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. And then, of course, as you guys can see right there, my Buffalo Bills were able to pull off a huge victory in the wild card weekend over the Jacksonville Jaguars in advance to the divisional round to take on the Denver Broncos next week. I'm super excited for that one, but I don't know if I'm ready for it nerves wise. This team, I tell you, they take years off my life and tend to do it on a yearly basis, unfortunately. But other cool Canadians that were on the big stage as well, as I mentioned, the Miami D lineman, Theo Benedette, friend of the program, fellow British Columbian, UBC alum, played this weekend with the Chicago Bears. Been in and out of the starting lineup throughout the season. I know suffered or sustained an injury that kind of took him out of the lineup, unfortunately. Got back in there once he was healthy, and then kind of was one of the depth options for the Bears on Saturday, I believe it was, and actually had to go fill in on, I want to say, the last two drives, might have been the final drive of the game, where the Chicago Bears went down and took care of business, and super cool to see Theo on the big stage like that. Was able to watch Theo while he was at UBC, which was super cool, and then kind of continue to follow his path into the NFL as not a U Sports draftee, but a U Sports undrafted free agent that's really carved out a NFL path here the last 2 years. So super cool. Big shout out to Theo, and continued success and best of luck throughout the playoffs to both those guys. As I want to say, I forget his first name, but it's Messinora, if I'm not mistaken, the Miami D lineman. Best of luck to him, as well as he's going to try to bring home a national championship, which will be super cool. Miami and Indiana down in Miami, which will be a fun one in Hard Rock Stadium. So, and then of course we do have a game tonight, which will be kind of after we do get off here, we'll be going to sit down and watch probably about the second half of that game. But other than that, folks, we will be back on Wednesday night. Of course, by the time this is uploaded, you guys will not be aware of it, unfortunately, but it will be already uploaded on the Lions Den podcast, as you guys or maybe aren't aware. I did give that little bit of an update last episode, joining forces with Brian and the Lions Den podcast to give you guys BC Lions content during the off season. Probably not on a weekly basis, maybe like an every other weekly basis, kind of similar to our uploads for the podcast episodes, if not every month for sure. But Brian and I are going to go live this Wednesday night. Of course, as I mentioned, by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll already have happened. But you guys can go over to the Lions Den YouTube channel. Please like the videos, comment, all that good stuff. And then, of course, subscribe to the Lions Den podcast YouTube channel as well. And you guys can find all of our content over there. Don't look in the video tab, look in the live tab. That's where we've been going. We haven't been uploading videos, we've been going live. So a little bit of confusion, I know, from time to time, where people will go to our YouTube channel and like, where's that video that I remember seeing that you guys had? Well, maybe it was a live video and it kind of goes in that different tab. So be sure to head over there. As I mentioned, like, comment, subscribe. You guys can also find them on, or find us, I should say, on social media, the Lions Den, on Twitter, Facebook, um, Instagram, and the website as well. We'll leave all that in the link in the description as well to find that a little bit easier, as well as the Royal Retros. As I mentioned, guys, head over to royalretros.com. You guys will be able to find our merchandise in the near future. So I think other than that we've crossed our T's, we've dotted our I's. Super excited to have one Adrian Greene join us for a podcast episode. We actually had Adrian on 2 years ago, back when he was in BC in 2024, during our weekly show during this season. Actually, I think it kicked things off in 2024 where we had Adrian on, but it was only for a short period of time. So super excited to kind of have a more in-depth conversation with Adrian, learn a little bit more about his journey, and then see what kind of how he turned into the all CFL defensive back that he is here today. So without further ado, let's send it over to the episode right now. Alrighty, y'all. Joining me now is Calgary Stampeders defensive back Adrian Greene. Adrian, how are we doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you, bro. Appreciate y'all having me on board.
Yeah, of course, of course. So how's the off season treating you? I know it's kind of, what are we, about 6, 7 weeks since the season ended and wrapped up. I would imagine you kind of went into the holidays. It's that good, like, kind of need that break away from football. But how's the off season treating you?
It's been good. I'm doing this off season out here in Calgary. I just feel like, it's a great opportunity to get with some guys that staying local and everything like that. I obviously took the holidays, spent some time with my family and everything back home, but that was really nice, and it was great to see all of them. But it's definitely been exciting to be back in the city and getting into the facility and everything with some of the guys and getting back to work.
That's cool. That's cool. So maybe take us into like what's a day in the life look like of you, kind of like going to work. You go into the facility, I would imagine, maybe till like the afternoon at some point. I
Mhm.
was gonna ask you, I thought you were coaching with Grinch this year, but
Yeah.
kind of, I would imagine you have like your afternoons, I guess, to kind of do what you will.
Well, yeah, I'm still doing that actually. Clark Barnes and Grinch and Coach States and Coach Alamine as well, like a few guys over there dealing with like the practices and everything hands on. For me, I'm more so going over the film and stuff for the defensive guys, getting them right, and then flying down to the tournaments and being able to be with the team for the tournaments and stuff like that, and be on the sidelines with them. So that's been great. We actually got our first one coming up uh at the end of this month in Indiana. So we'll be down there with the kids. It's exciting. We were down there last year and it didn't end exactly how we wanted to, but we got a great roster set this year, and we're looking forward to that. But day in the life for me is getting a run through the morning, just getting like speed work, change of direction days, stuff like that. Just typical off season work. Getting the lift in, and then getting treatment and getting in the tubs and stuff like that. The rest of the day, I kind of got that to myself. So take my dog out to the dog park and stuff like that. Go for a walk, just go around the city a little bit, spend some time with my girl and everything like that. So it's been nice, yeah.
I would imagine it's still early in the off season, so you're enjoying all that relaxing time and kind of
Nah, for sure.
unwinding.
You gotta slow cook. You can't cook the steak too quick.
Yeah, damn right, damn right. So, uh, lastly, on Grinch, I guess, for anybody, I believe it's kind of in the GTA. Maybe if anybody is interested, or maybe listening or whatnot, where can they get kind of maybe in touch with any of y'all and any of the coaching staff?
Yeah, you can hit us up on Instagram. My ads at go getter green. Also through the Grinch Elite page, so that would be at Grinch Elite. And then also you could message Coach Grinch himself, and Clark Barnes is our offensive coordinator and our head coach for our U18 team, and his Instagram I believe is the real Clark Barnes or the real CB. But if you go through Grinch Elite at Grinch Elite, you'll be able to find it all out through there on Instagram.
Yeah, one Brandon hands. I know Brandon a little bit. He played with Westro when I was with BI. So shout out to
Okay.
Brandon. Everything he's doing with Grinch. It's super cool to watch you guys over there in Toronto kind of start that program up. So let's get back to you, AG. So I'm curious, for anybody that's maybe not familiar with you a little bit. Let's maybe take us back to growing up in Toronto. And kind of when did football maybe come into your life at an early age, or was it maybe into high school or whatnot? And kind of who maybe was, an influence to you into football?
Yeah, so I started football at I believe it was 7 years old. I started playing for Scarborough Thunder. That's in Scarborough, in Scarborough, Toronto. Me and my older brother started at the same time. He was 4 years older than me, and kind of that journey for us. We used to see one of our neighbors. He actually played for a team called Pickering Dolphins at the time. Now it's under Durham Dolphins, but we used to see him come home with his pads every couple of days in the week, and like we played like soccer and basketball and other sports and stuff growing up, but kind of seeing the him with the shoulder pad, it was very intriguing for the both of us. And I mean, and initially, my older brother wanted to play, and I kept going back and forth about it. And it took like about a year of convincing my parents to let us play football. And then, when it came down to sign up, my mom came home with the pamphlets and everything. He signed up. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do. I don't want to do that. I want to get tackled. I don't want to do all that. And then, so she had signed him up, and the very like that same night, my brother's like, man, like I'm starting. I'm gonna try it. Like you got to come and try it out too. So I ended up folding, and I was like, you know what, mom signed me up too. So I mean, I remember the first time we went out there. It was raining bad, and it was like early spring, so it still wasn't warm yet in Toronto. And we didn't have like the right cold gear and stuff. We weren't prepared. Like it was our first time playing the sport, so we were freezing. But we played like British Bulldog that very first practice, and it was muddy. It was a muddy grass field. You know what I mean? Like we had a great time, honestly. And I think from that point forward, like every year for the both of us, kind of just kept getting better and better, like in terms of our abilities playing and everything like that. So my brother ended up going down to a junior college in Iowa first. Um, and then he was trying to go to University of Buffalo, University of South Florida, and things, and didn't necessarily work out for him that way. But he ended up at the University of Regina. Played 4 or 5. I believe he played 5 seasons there. And then me growing up watching him, older brother, he also played DB and helped me a lot. Kind of, growing up and everything. I was always like the little kid playing with the older kids and stuff like that. Just like obviously not like within the organized game, but like you go to the park, you throwing the football around and stuff. Like you guys get together and have fun. Like I was always playing with the older guys, and I think that kind of helped me a lot when it did come for me to play. Growing up and stuff in community ball in high school and everything. And then just watching his journey and progression through the sport and university, and he would come home and like teach me new things and stuff like that, along with like one of the like my mentor still to this day. I met him in 10th grade. His name's Troy Adams. And there's a few of us that train, and there's a few of us CFL players and college guys that train with him out in Pickering at CPC. But along with meeting him along the way and help guide me like through my journey and everything like that, kind of help develop me as a player. Um, and just kind of evaluating my scholarship offers and everything like that, for my family and at the time and everything, going out to St. Mary's and playing for James Colsey the third. He was a former head coach at Florida A&M this past season as well. He kind of helped prepare me for the next level after that as well through my college. I spent 4 to 5 seasons at St. Mary's. Had a good time there. Played some good ball. Um, Honestly, it was a great experience for me. Uh, and then ultimately after that, we went into the CFL draft, and that was in 2022. So I played my senior season in 2021. Um, yeah, and then going get into BC. It was obviously another new experience, another new step along the way. And I met a lot of great players playing for BC and a lot of older guys that help. A big part of the game is like how much can you learn and how much can you get better every year. So I think those guys were a big part of that for me. Guys like I don't want to say it's because he's still playing, but Gary Peters, that's my guy. TJ Lee, let me think.
Purifoy,
Yeah, Purefoy was there still.
Sales,
Delvin,
Sales.
Delvin, bro, Marcus Sales. Yup, absolutely. There's a honestly there's a bunch of guys, like there's the list goes on, guys I haven't named as well, but a lot of those guys help me tremendously, just learning the game and honestly just developing as a player and everything like that. And then played my 3 seasons in BC, then free agency came and Calgary came to the table through that process. I was actually I had gone to contact with Coach Dwayne Cameron, and he's not coaching now. He's doing more like player personnel and scouting and stuff like that. But he had actually when I was in high school, he was a DB coach at or DB of the DC at Laurier University, and he recruited me back then. And it was kind of like a full circle moment of him reaching out and stuff like that. And obviously along with Coach Dave Dickinson and everybody else on the staff as well. Like you get in contact with them through the free agency as well and everything. And honestly, just talking with all of them and kind of going through negotiation and everything like that. It was just like this is felt like a place that I wanted to be at, and I feel like they had a great plan in place for me, and I feel like my capabilities and the things I'm able to do was going to benefit the team, and then them wanting me to be there and them having that plan for me would also help the team as well. So I just felt like it was a good fit, and we mutually came to the decision like let's make Calgary home.
Yeah, a team with rich tradition as well in the Stampeders. They've been very good the last decade or so. But I'm
Mm.
curious, Adrian, bring it back just a little bit.
Yeah.
Growing up in Ontario, and now you're coaching a lot of the kids in Ontario and whatnot.
Mhm.
I know there's gonna be some people maybe from Sask, Quebec, even maybe out west here that would have a little bit something else to say, but I'm curious to, like, in your opinion, what makes football in Ontario different? I feel like I've had, Clark on, we've had AJ on, like, a few guys that have kinda grown up, similar age group to you, and, they're talking about playing with, like, guys that, like, they see in the CFL years later, right? Where I believe you, same thing, right? Where you played with, I think you referenced the Thunder there. I think Daniel Adeboye was a teammate. I want to say like
Yeah. Yeah.
Keandre Smith,
DeAndre
I believe, was a team.
Smith, Kalan Thomas, yeah.
So
Even
like
even
what
Tavon Campbell's on my older brother's team actually as well.
crazy, and
Yeah.
obviously Saskatchewan Roughriders DB. So in your mind, as I said, I know there's going to be people from Sask and maybe Quebec that have something else to say, but from a somebody speaking outside of province and from BC, I would say Ontario is by far the kind of the province in Canada in terms of football. But in your opinion, what kind of makes it the best?
Man, I think at a young age for all of us growing up at least it was always very competitive. And honestly, there's just a lot of athletes that come out of the GTA in general. Like that's not just football alone. Like you look at basketball, hockey, like all like the main sports in North America, like it's a lot of great athletes that come out of that area. Obviously, like there's a few big cities in Ontario, so that kind of helps out as well. But I think just the competitive nature behind sports in Ontario is really big, and honestly, just it's kind of that thing of like when you have one good athlete, it kind of stems to another one, and then as you constantly compete against high level players and high level athletes, it kind of brings that level of competition up, and everyone kind of continues to get better. Like when I think about it, I even played against Nate when we were about like 10, and he played for the Burlington Stampeders. I think it was around. I guess AJ Allen was on that team too, probably. But yeah, like this goes to show, like it's kind of like a full circle moment for everybody.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'm curious, you already referenced it there a little bit. You end up deciding to go to St. Mary's University all the way on the other side of Canada. I'm curious, Ontario boy, no OUA aspirations at all, but I also did see in an interview, I did see you have some family ties out east. So that
Mhm.
kind of maybe played into things a little bit. Take us through into kind of that decision, and were there any OUA teams in kind of the discussion or in the running for you, or was it just kind of, I'm going to take this option and kind of make the best out of it?
Yeah, honestly, there was I had a good amount of recruitment through high school, and I had a good amount of OUA schools reaching out and contacting with me as well. Um, my family being on the East Coast wasn't necessarily like a big factor in my decision because a lot of them do live in like Sydney, Nova Scotia, is about like 4.5 hours away from Halifax. But more so for me, um, it was kind of like an evaluation of what at the time at least I was looking at what coach was going to be able to prepare me for pro football the most, in my opinion, at the time. So Coach James Colsey had a great resume. He was my head coach, he was my defensive coordinator, and my cornerback positional coach, all in the same team. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if I'm gonna learn anything playing corner and then trying to become a professional corner one day, I would hope that he would be able to teach me a lot and I'll be able to learn a lot from him. Him playing at the caliber of football that he did, like he played at Florida State, won a national championship. Um, had a short stint in the NFL as well. Like to me, that resume was kind of unmatched at that time, in my opinion. Like looking at it, so I'm like, man, I can't. It was kind of like a no brainer for me, and honestly, it was just like a good spot for my family as well, just in terms of like scholarship and opportunity off the field and everything like that.
I'm glad you mentioned Coach Colsey. I was actually going to ask you about him and kind of the impact he had on your career. So, transitions well there perfectly. So I'm curious, when looking back at your kind of path here, are you proud at all of kind of like taking the path that's less traveled a little bit? Obviously, the kind of stereotype is, the US doesn't produce and kind of, all this stuff. But, you look at the resume that comes with, St. Mary's. I believe they have, is it 3 Vaniers? I wanna say, like, 25 conference championships,
Mhm.
multiple I think it was, like, 80 plus or whatever, CFL draft selections,
Yeah.
where from an outside narrative, people think, go there and you're gonna be done football after your 4 or 5 years, right? Where maybe kids look at, these OUA schools and they have that, they wanna go get recruited, and then they're on the bench for, 3, 4 years, and they never end up playing, where you
Mhm.
just went and put your head down, got to work, and took advantage of your opportunity, as you mentioned as well, kind of sorting out that professional opportunity of understanding, I want to go pro one day. Where's the best opportunity for me? So,
Yeah.
are you? I guess you are still a young guy still, so it's maybe something that once you finish your career, you'll be able to look back and be a little bit more proud of. But still, what is it? 5 years ago or 4 years ago since you've been at SMU, I think.
2021, 2021
Are you
fall was my last semester there.
are you able to look back and be like, man, like super proud of kind of the journey that you were on?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like regardless of where you went as an athlete and being in the position I am, I'm super grateful and fortunate for that. Like you said, like the AUS conference is looked down upon a lot, and that's just the reality of the situation. And when it comes down to it, it's like, how are you going to make the most of the situation you're in? And I feel like I did exactly that, but it's something I don't feel like I could have done alone. I feel like I had a lot of guidance and a lot of help along the way, and I'm honestly super grateful for those people. But proud is definitely I would say that I am for sure. Like obviously it was like a little bit of a longer route, and you could say it's more challenging or not. Like it's subjective, right, to the viewer, but I'm definitely grateful for that. And it's something that I feel like coming out the AUS is talked about a lot, like just like you said, like it's a bit of a weaker conference in XYZ and national, you want to win national championships and everything like that. But at the end of the day, like as a player and depending on what your aspirations, you also want to be able to go somewhere where you're going to continue to grow as a player, right? You know, at the end of the day, when you're at the combine and you're sitting in the interview rooms and you're running your 40s and doing the one-on-ones and stuff, like, yes, you have a logo on your helmet, but you're there isn't a team that's in that combine representing you. You have to you are representing your team and you are representing yourself. You know what I mean? So it really comes down to personal and individual performance at the combine and through that. And that's essentially what is your transition into pro football, right? Like you're being evaluated how you walk around, like from the minute you show up at the combine to the minute the day's over, like that's a personal evaluation of that. So at the end of the day, like to any athlete, I would say, just choose a school and a place where you're going to be able to continue to grow and you feel like you can make the most out of your own individual experience and just focus on that, really. That could be
Well,
anywhere, to be honest with you.
well said, AG, for sure. So, you referenced it there a little bit, and it is combine season here in probably, 4 or 5 weeks here. And you had quite the journey. Obviously, you had to go through the invitational combine and then get to the national combine. So a little bit of a two-part question,
Mhm.
AG. I'm curious to like kind of, going into things. I would imagine kind of you had maybe the sense of like having to prove yourself that invitational, and then once you get the invite to national, it's kind of like, man, like proving why I belong here. And you obviously go show out and able to kind of I would imagine get noticed by the coaches and they remember that come draft day. But kind of what was your mindset, I guess, at that time of like just, you know what, I'm gonna go down and kind of be a dog and just prove myself to all these coaches.
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty angry through the process. And for me, and this is 100% transparency, just because at the time, like I was looking across the board, and when I think about all the players that played in youth sports and everything, like a lot of these guys I grew up playing with and against, you know what I mean? So for me, it was a perspective of like, yeah, I did go play at this school. And obviously they don't get this, like 4 years is a long time. A lot of things can change in terms of a player's development and abilities. But for me, I was looking at it from a perspective of like the question kept being, can he play with these players from these other conferences and other places where I'm like, I've literally played against a lot of these guys my whole life. You know what I mean? So obviously they don't know me, and then that was fine. I'm like, at the end of the day, I have to show up, and it's up to me to prove who I am as a player and a person. So I definitely had an edge, and me and my trainer talk about it, and I kind of said it before, like it's like a saying of like you got a chip on your shoulder, but for me it was like a taco shell size chip. You know what I mean? Like I was really going there with something to prove, and honestly just trying to make a name for myself that I wasn't necessarily able to create for myself through the college process, but the CFL Combine gave me a platform to do exactly that.
Yeah, you know the saying, whether it's the NUAUS or the Invitational Combine, if you're a good player, they're gonna find you. They're gonna
They're
come
gonna
and be able to
find a
get a look
way.
at you. Yeah, exactly. So, pissed off. I honestly love to hear that, and it's truthful too, right? Some might give kind of just a cliche answer of I was motivated, this blah blah blah. I love to hear kind of the truthful side of that as well. And I would imagine, as you said, a taco-sized chip on your shoulder, man, of wanting to go
Yeah.
in there and just prove that, hey, I belong here and can ball as well. So you end up getting selected in the fourth round, I believe 35th overall to BC, and come out west.
30, 32.
32. My apologies. My
Yeah, it's
apologies.
all good.
Three more picks ahead. So I'm curious, what were your emotions on draft day? I would imagine it's kind of like similar to a dream come true, but were there any maybe like a little bit of kind of like a little bit of nerves at all? Like, man, I got to go across the country now. Where you kind of Ontario boy, grew up on the East Coast, and then you're kind of coming across to the West Coast.
Yeah, honestly, I had a bunch of mixed emotion. Obviously, I was super excited and super happy to be selected. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, moving across the country wasn't really a thing for me. It didn't really matter back then. I'm like, I played all the way out in St. Mary's, and I'm just going from one coast all the way out to the other. You know what I mean? So the main thing was for me was just I'm just like, I'm going out to BC and I'm going to make the team one way or another. Like that was my thought process and goal right away. The first thing I did, I went that same night, went and looked at everybody that was signed and drafted, and looked all through the roster and everything, looking up everybody's stats and cutting on the film and seeing who's out there and everything. So just knowing, understanding that it's a next step and a new level of football. But there's a few people close to me and around me that I knew that have had a pretty solid CFL career. Um, and just being able to pick their brains apart and kind of get their perspective on their experiences and stuff like that kind of helped with giving me an idea going into BC what that would look like. And I'm gonna be straight up, like when I got there, it was completely different for me than their experiences. You know what I mean? And it's always gonna be that way. Nobody's experience is gonna be exactly the same. But uh it was exciting for sure. And I still had a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, at the end of the day, there were still 31 picks in front of me. So I was also looking at it from that perspective, like, what do I want my career to look like, and how do I want to continue to grow in this sport, and what do I want my ultimate goal to be in this league. And like, if you ever have Gary Peters on the show, I always told him, I'm like, listen, man, like when I first got to BC, obviously a little bit more quiet and everything like that, but once I got through camp and, I was on PR first and then I got activated. And as you continue to start to play more and more and get more assimilated with the guys on the team, I always tell them like, hey man, like I'm gonna be better than you. Simple as that. I'm gonna be better than you. I always tell them that. And still to this day, I'll call him on the phone and be like, gee, talk to me, man. You know what I mean? So it was just honestly just grateful experience. That transition into pro football was obviously a childhood dream come true. It's something I've always wanted to do, and that's kind of how it's been since, and still continuing to live that dream to this day.
I love to hear that little story about GP because I was actually going to ask you, as I said, about TJ, GP, Purefoy, and the other kind of veterans, RP as a coach,
Hmm.
as a young player. But I'm curious, you end up going through your, as you said, kind of your early years in your career on the PR. You start to kind of get a little bit of a role on special teams, and then in 24, you end up getting into the starting lineup to start that season. I thought you had a pretty good season, probably a little bit more quietly than maybe if you were an Alliance fan. I think outside of watching you guys on a weekly basis. And then you get to go into free agency, obviously, in the back of your mind. But did that give you kind of confidence after that year to be like, man, like I'm a player in this league. I can go out and kind of get what I want in free agency, not have to like worry about kind of maybe coming back to BC at a cheaper rate and being like, man, like I deserve to get paid. I'm confident enough to believe in my ability.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, like football is a performance based business. So you know, playing time and contracts and stuff like that, a lot of the time is going to be based off, or not a lot of time, damn near every time is going to be based on how you perform. So I felt like I played well in BC, but there's still so much more that I want to be able to do and accomplish, and I felt like I had so much more to give. And at the end of the day, like you just evaluate what's going to be the best situation for you to be able to do that. And when Calgary came to the table and, kind of just talking through that and figuring everything out behind the scenes, once you get the contract negotiation stuff out the way, at the end of the day, as a player, it comes down to you to going on the field and performing. So I feel like Calgary put me in the best position to be able to do that. And that's kind of the result.
And boy, did they ever. So they end up sliding you back out to your maybe your natural position or position that you were playing in university outside the corner. I was actually able to. I was down in Victoria for the first preseason game last season for you guys. So
Yeah,
um, you end up getting off to a fabulous start. Obviously, go through preseason. Week 2 and in Toronto is obviously kind of the big kind of introduction to yourself in a Calgary uniform. So we did kind of introduce kind of like a film breakdown series here on the channel AG. So we had Taylor Elgersman on to like kind of do a full episode on it. We asked AJ Allen last week to kind of like break down a few plays from his last season. So we're going to ask you to do the same. I'm going to bring it up. We're going to play it quick and then kind
yes,
of just
sir.
like talk us kind of through it afterwards. So let me just.
Yeah.
So this was obviously first of 2 interceptions for you, Adrian. Week 2, as I mentioned, we were able to get off to a super hot start. So I'll play this one through, and then I'll just give you the floor afterwards to kind of just talk us through it um, afterwards. So,
Mhm.
AG, obviously you're here at the bottom of the screen playing that field corner position number 0 here. So I'll play it through, and we can.
Yeah,
So
so go
So
ahead.
yeah, AJ, give me a second here. I'll bring it back this way. But um, if at any point you need me to bring up the screen to AJ and you want to reference something, let me know and I can do so. But just walk us through it basically.
Yeah, so Toronto ran that deep curl comeback to the field a few times on film. I feel like it's been in their playbook for a little bit now. And honestly, my Sam Derek Moncrief did a great job on that play. He kind of widened two, because essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to send two vertical to essentially make the corner feel like he has to play higher on top, so that they can create space on that sideline where it's going to be a longer break for you to try and come off of two and get back to that one. So if you could pull it back, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you let it run. So if you look at Too Strong, the slot receiver,
I'm gonna try to play it slowly here, AJ. Give me a second. That's fast. But anyways, AG, I'll just I'll back it up to the start, and then I can just kind of go through. If you want me to fast forward a frame, just let me know.
Yeah. So if you let it play just a little bit, I'll tell you when to pause. So two's going stretching vertical, play, keep playing a little bit more, pause. So essentially, him widening two shorten the space from myself and two, like the in terms of width on the field. So if he doesn't widen two, he's gonna be more inside and closer inside. So I'm not gonna be able to play as tight to one as I am, right? Because at the end of the day, they want two to feel as if he's a threat to me. Whereas this is also a long throw. Like that's where's our buckle at? Our buckle is around like the 25. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That's like a 35, 40-yard throw for him to make for me to close about 10 yards of space in both directions. And that's to the seam and to the comeback as well. So at the end of the day, I have to get around 7.5 to 8 yards in each direction for me to make a play on the ball. And I also have my
You
safety high inside or my halfback high inside of me as well. So a big key of this play specifically was is Derek Moncrief getting number two to widen, and that kind of affects the timing of the seam stretching vertical versus the comeback breaking off at similar times. So and then when it comes down to it, get your eyes back to the football. I seen his shoulders are also pointed pretty far to the sideline, and you got to stick your foot in the ground and change direction and go get it.
we gotta score. We gotta put points up on the board as well. And you were doing that
Hey,
a few times last year. So,
yeah, got to
um,
bring two back.
yes, sir. So I appreciate that, AG. As I mentioned, you also had the second one there in week two and got you off to a phenomenal start in a new uniform. I would imagine kind of get that ball of confidence rolling in the right direction. And then, unfortunately, the game that everyone plays and kind of the injury rate that it is, you end up sustaining an injury on an interception of all things, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
which is crazy. But take us through that time of kind of you're having a career year and then you sustain an injury. You obviously do come back and finish the year very strong, end up another pick six for Toronto later in the season.
Yeah.
So take us through that of like kind of maybe what was going on in your head of, you're having this career year and then this injury happens and kind of stacks an obstacle in your way.
Hmm. Man, I was honestly just excited to get back onto the field. I didn't really have a negative mindset towards it. Like I feel like there's so many great players that we had on our defense. And my focus at the time of my injury was, whoever is playing in my spot, how can I help them the best to be successful so that we can continue to win? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like we're all playing for a Grey Cup, and that's like the bigger goal within. Obviously, individual accolades and success is all great and everything like that, but the ultimate goal is to play for that Grey Cup. I'm like, how can I continue to contribute to the team that we can, hopefully get there? Um, so that was that mindset towards like the team actively playing, and for me, it was more so like you know, making sure I'm doing everything the right way. That's like nutrition, recovery, treatment wise, that I can get back onto the field as fast as possible. Because I felt like, we had a bunch of special things going on throughout the season, which we did. And that was pretty much my thought process behind it. It was really just how can I get back on the field as fast as possible and how can I contribute to the team throughout this process?
Yeah, it's a great mindset to have though, and just control what you can control, right? If you kind of let things get out of control, you can maybe it'll affect you on the field when you get back or whatnot. You just kind of attack your rehab, and that's what you're able to do and get back on the field. And then you were able to finish off your phenomenal season, and get recognized, rightfully so, as a All CFL player. I believe you were on the CFLPA All Star team, if I'm not mistaken, which I think has maybe arguably the most credence or legitimacy to it because it's voted on by I believe it's the receivers that you go against, if I'm not mistaken, that voted on it.
Mhm.
So it's not like your teammates just are loading up the votes,
Filling the
which is
ballot low.
yeah, which is cool too, but I feel like it means more, right? Where your peers are voting on, like, hey man, I went up against Adrian Greene. He was a ball player, man. Like he was giving me fits all game. And I know football is the ultimate team sport, and these things really, at the end of the day, are kind of minuscule compared to a Grey Cup or things like that. But are you able to kind of like appreciate it, I guess, of being recognized, as the best corner, the best one of the best corners this year in the CFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it kind of touches on that topic before of like, kind of constantly trying to achieve things through the sport and just continuing to grow. And I feel like I took a bunch of strides this past season. And honestly, like, I feel like the people I had around me, and that's top down from like the coaches, GMs, and owners, all the way down to like my teammates and equipment staff, everybody in between. Like, I feel like everybody contributed to kind of like my team, but like my individual success as well. Like the guys I had in my DB room really pushed me, and the receivers practicing with them and everything, they really pushed me as well. Like I feel like I can't, it wouldn't be just for me to sit here and say like it was an individual award. Like, we worked through the off season with my trainer, and like there's other guys, receivers in the CFL that were all training together. You know what I mean? And even Tavon Campbell was in there with us getting right as well. So I feel like it's a whole village award to me. You know what I mean? Like it takes a lot more than just me going out there.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's the ultimate team game, and you're just kind of doing your 1/12, right? Doing your job, and then hoping your brothers are going to do theirs as well. So I'm curious. Uh, Last few for you, Adrian. We'll get you out of here, buddy. With this award, as I mentioned already, was down there in Victoria when you guys opened up the preseason versus BC, and kind of that was my introduction to like, oh, AG's out playing corner, right? Obviously, as your time in BC and not really following Calgary Stampeders training camp updates or anything like that, it was kind of like, oh, a new position for him. But obviously, that was a little bit familiar to you going back to St. Mary's. So how was that for you to kind of be familiar in two positions and kind of just to be able to fill in when you got to Calgary of whether it was going to be at safety or at corner and just slot into the starting lineup very seamlessly?
It was great, honestly. Just like you said, honestly, I played corner my whole life. Like from like little league and stuff, I played quarterback and offense and return and all that stuff as well. But in high school, like you play all over the place. But like when I got to college, I'm honestly through high school, my summer football, I was like strictly a corner, and then high school football, I was playing like receiver, corner, whatever. But college was strictly corner. And then when I got to BC, my first year I was at corner, and like I would do like the dime stuff at corner as well. And then my second year, um, kind of like transitioned to safety a little bit, and then ended up starting at safety. And then my third year, I played corner, half. I mean, I started at safety, but then I played halfback some of the games, like 4 or 5 games, and I played corner some some of the games. So I was all over the place. And honestly, I'm grateful for that experience as well, just in terms of like being able to display my versatility and kind of learning more about the game and the DB position just in general. I feel like it kind of elevated my IQ on what's going on around me, and being able to physically be in those positions and see how the game's manipulated by offenses kind of helped me out a lot as a corner, just kind of seeing like what my halfback's gonna need in terms of help and stuff like that. And then sitting getting in with your coaches and everything like that as well, like Baron Miles is his career and resume and everything speaks for itself as well. So being able to pick his brain and like him as well, like you play all over the place as well. So to answer your question, being back at corner's been great.
I love it. Great answer again, AG.
Yeah.
So, last one for you, and we'll get you out of here, buddy. I appreciate your time once again. Let's bring it back. It is the ultimate team game. Let's bring it back to the Calgary Stampeders. I really feel like you guys kind of, and you know this firsthand with kind of establishing your new foundation with kind of like VA and some of those guys you guys brought over in free agency last year. You guys kind of being together as a core for the first time. You guys are going to go into next year with a lot of the same guys coming back. As I said, Vernon Adams and everything he does, not only on the field but off the field. As I said, you're very well aware with the offseason and whatnot, and how he's able to bring a team together. What does or I guess I'll kind of leave it open, I guess, to you. And lastly, before I do ask you the question, the Calgary Stampeders are hosting the Grey Cup this year. So I'm curious, in your mind, AG, what do the Calgary Stampeders have to do to be Grey Cup champions in 2026?
Take everything day by day, and that's from obviously it starts now. Your off season kind of sets that foundation for you going into the season, but ultimately, when camp rolls around and everyone starts flying in and everything like that, it's just taking it one day at a time. And I said it in, I forget what interview it was, but like a big theme for our team was like win the day. And I feel like if we can win every day from the start of the year to the end of the year, we'd be in pretty good spot when the season's all wrapped up.
Great answer again. Great having you on the channel, AG. I appreciate it once again,
Appreciate you
buddy.
guys having me on board, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So one last time before we do get you out of here, if anybody is in the Toronto area or maybe is interested in playing some flag football, or excuse me, 7-on-7 football, where can they maybe get at? Is it Grinch Elite on Instagram, all the social media?
Yeah, at Grinchley, or you could even reach out to myself at Go Getter Green.
Awesome. Thank you, AG, once again, buddy. Best of luck and have a good rest of your offseason.
Absolutely appreciate y'all having me on.
All right. Later, AG.
All right, easy.
Alrighty, folks. Big shout out to one Adrian Greene once again, hopping on the channel. As I said, friend of the program, second time now here on the Canadian Football Fanatics. We had him back on in 24, as I said, but it was just a quick little segment that we had him on for the weekly show back actually when I think Blake actually took part in that interview as well. So was awesome to have Adrian on, chat a little bit about his journey, his career, his path to the CFL, and hear it from his own voice. As I said, there were some cool answers in there where he was just truthful and honest. So super cool. I would recommend if you guys enjoyed this one, then go back and check out our our previous episodes. Excuse me, is what I'm trying to say. We just had AJ Allen on. I was going to say Saskatchewan Roughriders, but free agent linebacker AJ Allen is our most recent episode. And then, of course, if you guys are wanting to go back into the spring, last spring, we do have some episodes from way back then. But of course, inactive during the season, and then we're back at her now, folks. Into the new year, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have the AJ Allen one. We're gonna have this one up. We're gonna be recording episode 50 here in the next coming days. And then 51, 52 are guests. Our guests are at least locked up for 51. We're not going to tease anybody quite yet. I will say that we're going to maybe be coming back out west, get a little bit more West Coast ties, or at least centralize a little bit more in Canada, because this player does play maybe in the orange and black, but not from out west. So that'll be episode probably 51, maybe 52. We'll see how things work out. We're just trying to line up episode 50, folks. So as I said, this one will be out for you guys in the middle of January. Expect episode 50 to probably kick off February, I would say, where we release it maybe to end the month of January or to start February. It'll be a little bit of excuse me, folks. Hopefully, you guys didn't hear that too much. I know the microphone does pick it up actually pretty good. So, my apologize. I had to let a little burp out, and hopefully, the microphone isn't that good at its job. But if you guys did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below. Whether it's a comment for Adrian, a comment wishing Adrian well the rest of his offseason, or leave a comment. Who would you guys like to see as a future guest here on the channel? So like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys get notified every time we go live or upload a video just like this one right here. And then, of course, you guys can find us on our social media platforms at _CF Fanatics on Twitter. And then we're on Instagram at Canadian Football Fanatics over there. And then as well, head over to Royal Retros, our recent partnered platform. You guys will be able to find some CFF merchandise in the coming weeks over on royalretros.com. Of course, we'll leave all the info in the description. Appreciate Adrian Greene for hopping on once again, and we'll catch you guys on episode 50.